Howdy. Come on, y'all. How many of y'all can see this picture of Texas here on the map? If y'all can see that, you can zoom in on the camera. Well, I'm proud to be from Texas. I tell you what, how many of y'all wish that we could kick the mullahs out and make Iran more like Texas? Come on. Y'all have heard me speak multiple times, which kind of makes me wonder, why do you keep inviting me back? You know, I follow a lot of speakers, and notwithstanding who was here earlier, but last week I followed a speaker that was so bad, they booed him throughout my entire talk. Some of y'all will get that on the way home. Okay. Well, look, we all know what's at stake here, so I want to address this matter regarding the Iranian regime. This is such, Pete Sessions, Congressman Sessions said this is a beautiful season. What a contrast we have, where we have liberty here, liberty in the United States, and there's a murderous regime over in Iran that wants to press everybody down and kill people if they don't agree with them. So it's disheartening to note that amidst our celebrations, the Iranian regime persists in oppressing its own people and contributing to violence in the region that Pete talked about. And y'all know that. They contribute more violence than any other country in the world. And you know what? It's time that it stopped. Y'all agree? And as Congressman Sessions said, their violence is not confined to just the Persian regime, if you want to call region, if you want to call it that. You turn on the news, you witness the horrors and all of the things that have been happening by their proxies, Hamas, Hezbollah, and the Houthi rebels in Yemen. Just today, the Navy had to respond to the Houthi rebels one more time. This has got to stop. For far too long, the citizens of Iran have had to endure a regime that is murderous, violent, and it's time for freedom in Iran. Sad to report, and y'all know this, that the regime has actually increased the number of executions that's going on, just solely to create fear and to kill people who disagree with them. Consider this. Last month alone, most of y'all probably know this, they executed 120 people. It's time. This has got to stop. This has got to stop. Do the math on that, 120 people in a month. Folks, that's 4 executions a day. That is 4 executions a day. How many of y'all were here in this very room last year when they had pictures of all those who were executed? Y'all remember that? Breaks your heart. Absolutely breaks your heart. It's got to stop. In my introduction, the lady said I was over in Paris, France. I got to meet with Miss Maryam Rajavi. And let me tell you something. She's the real deal. Would y'all agree? And it's about time we get her put in place. Talking about the executions, as many of y'all know, they've started the regime, the Iranian terroristic regime has started sham trials, including the MEK today. 104 of those leaders are being put on trial in absentia. They're not even there, and they're still going after them. But I tell you what, when you talk with Miss Maryam Rajavi and when you see her how many of y'all have seen her 10-point plan? That's what we're talking about. That's what we're talking about. The National Council of Resistance of Iran, or NCRI, is in their endeavor to create a democratic and inclusive government where there is freedom. Would y'all enjoy freedom if you could get it over there? Absolutely. They've included that 10-point plan, which is the separation of church and state, it's got gender equality in it, it's got the protection of minority rights, and I could go right down the list. Y'all know this. The Iranian people have consistently demonstrated their desire for a brighter future, even at the cost and sacrifice of their lives. It's about time that ended, don't you think? It's about time that ended. We're going to end the Iranian terroristic regime and get that future for Iran that those people deserve. They have the right to enjoy the fundamental rights to freedom, religious liberty, however they want to practice it, without being threatened with the fear of death. Now is the time to hold the mullahs accountable and extend our support to the Iranian people for the pursuit of freedom with peace. We call the Christmas season the season of peace. What a contrast. There's never the season of peace over in Iran. It's a season of fear, tyranny, execution, and misery. Y'all agree? Come on. So it's time that we get together, the government, more and more pressure is brought to bear on the Iranian regime. The U.S. government needs to cut off any aid to Iran's regime. No money. I don't care what they say it's for, because you know they're going to take that money, they're going to use it for their military machine, they're going to use it to oppress people, they're going to use it to kill people and to export terrorism. It's time for that to stop. We need to impose more and more sanctions on that regime and hold them accountable for the killings not only inside Iran, but that it's spreading throughout the regime, throughout the region. We've got to do that. The United States should lead the initiative to put the Ayatollah and his mullahs on trial for crimes against humanity, for crimes of genocide, international terrorism, and hostage-taking. It's time they lost their power. It's time they were held accountable for the murdering, vicious thugs that they are, and the United States needs to take the lead in doing that. And Pete Sessions kind of talked about it a little bit. Maybe in this war that's going on right now, as more and more attention gets put on Iran, maybe other nations, we will wake up and will say enough is enough. So in the United States, you all know this, we understand the right of life. We understand the right of our citizens to self-defense as protected by the Second Amendment. Some of y'all have heard me say that Texas has more concealed handgun licensees for pistols than any other state in the Union. So we love self-defense in the Second Amendment in Texas. We also love the First Amendment guarantees of freedom of speech, freedoms of religion, and assembly. Now contrast that to what they've got going in Iran. Contrast that. We're defenseless citizens with no Second Amendment rights, no way to defend themselves, suffer under a regime of murdering thugs with an armed government. That is so wrong. It's time to change that. In Congress, we've introduced several bills advocating for the safety, security, and rights of the Iranian people. Most recently, my fellow Texan Lance Gooden introduced House Resolution 627, which condemns the regime for the massacre of political prisoners in 1988. And I can do this without notes. What was it? Nasser, about 30,000 people, give or take. I mean, it's unbelievable how bad it has been and still continues to be. I'm proud to be an original co-sponsor of Lance Gooden's bill, which now includes more than half of the Texas delegation. There's 38 of us. Includes more than half of the Texas delegation alone. As of yesterday, with the addition of Congressman Russell Fry of South Carolina, we now have 136 co-sponsors from both sides of the aisle. So let me just tell you what y'all all know. The quest for a free Iran is not just an Iranian issue. As recent world events have demonstrated, it affects us all. We're all in this together. So as we gather today, let me tell you, this Congress, this congressman, our state, y'all, this group here, we're going to reaffirm our commitment to say we're going to stand with the Iranians, we're going to fight for freedom, we're going to fight for democracy and human rights. We're going to stand right solidly behind Miriam Rajavi, make sure she gets her 10-point plan in place.